Hey guys, Keith here, working on the bench in the studio tonight by myself, working on the RC4WD drive Desert Hero Runner, Raptor, whatever. Pretty scaled unit that came out from RC4WD drive. They're pretty decent if you're looking for a nice super scale truck. It's independent front suspension, it's got the solid rear axle, it's got like the king shocks, the reservoirs, opening doors obviously. The hood does not open. The tailgate does open on it. We're not going to open that. Again, this is another story I'm going to get into with that. We did a color change on the truck. Obviously they come black. We color changed it over to white, and it looks a lot better. The rear door gap on these things is pretty huge, so we filled that with putty, and we've just carved another nice thinner door gap and painted that into there, just to kind of clean it up a little bit. The factory rim and tire on this truck is a 1.7 inch JD model wheel and tire. I'll get another shot of this later. It's pretty scale, looks like your BFG. Nice little rim. It's actually a beadlock with 12 little screws all the way around the outside. Really light duty, kind of cheap plastic, but you know, nice for the super scale truck. However, we want to switch over to a set of Vanquish 1.9s with a set of PitBull PBX AT tires. Nice design. Originally I was going to put a set of the China '06 Voodoo KLR tire on it off Amazon, except they're a little bit square at the tread pattern. These are going to fit a little bit nicer. The truck will not accommodate that setup without a lift kit. So I went ahead and bought the files from Spare Time Hobbies to do a 6.5mm lift kit in the truck. Comes with, I'll get another shot of these, drop shackles for the front of your leaves and blocks for the rear. It gives you 2 strut blocks for the top, go on top of your struts, push her up in the front. And these guys here are the real to push your shock mounts down. They go underneath the bed. One goes forward, one goes backward. Now, working on this truck before, I didn't like the one shock back, the one shock forward, because that's not how it is on a Raptor, but it is how it is on an F-150. So we reversed it. Both the shocks on this truck are running forward, so I may have to cut and splice these and actually re-3D print another one of these pieces so I can get it together. I might even be able to mesh mix it together into one solid part that mounts across to hang my shocks. I'll let you know how that goes. Another file that I believe it's Adam over at Spare Time Hobbies sells is this little guy here, little spacer that allows you to fit the 1.9 Vanquish rim on to the existing the hex hub that has the stud bolt sticking out of it. So that'll give you the proper spacing to help tuck those wheels up inside of it. And I also bought, well, it's all one for like $10 for the file, but I also bought the inner front fender wells for the truck. There's them. Everything's going to get painted and before it goes in. Oh, sorry. And one more thing is the transfer case on this truck sticks down pretty low. And this is a bracket that they make and sell to actually lay the transfer case down flat instead of having it sticking down. It sticks down like this right now, and this brings it up flat and gets it out of the way. There is a skid plate for the transfer case and a skid plate for the shift servo, but they don't seem to be on his web store. They only seem to be on another portal that he sells his files at that's no longer accepting payments currently at the date of this video. So I would like to get those in the future, but right now we'll go with what we got. I did remove the front bumper and put in the RC4WD drive. Nice Baja bumper with the light bar in it. That needs to be hooked up. It's got a nice little skid plate piece in the front. It's a pretty nice little unit. But yeah, I'm going to get ripping this thing apart, and we'll get into getting this lift into it, and new wheels, tires, new stand. It's going to look really good when it's done. So on this RC4WD drive Desert Hero Raptor Runner dealie here, actually use 6 bolts on the center, 6 studs with nuts actually to be super scale and hold the wheel on. You're going to need a 4.5mm nut driver. We had to take this one to the belt sander and kind of cone the end of it down a little bit to make it fit inside the cutout on the wheel. It is a tight little fit in there. And then another little tip is that's going to get stuck in there. So you can take a smaller screw, thread that into that nut, and then pull that out of there. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt. Keep that handy because you're going to have to do that on every single one of them. You're just going to want to wiggle it off. It's actually on there really tight on the studs. They're threaded, so there you go. So you can check out, it's got a scale, disc brake, and caliper here. This truck does have remote locking diffs off the radio, so right now we have the diffs in the unlock position. With the turn of a knob actually on the radio, it pulls on the cable and locks up the diffs on it. Pretty cool design. These are just plastic axles and such in here, but yeah, so all we really need to do is take our finished part there that we 3D printed from Spare Time Hobbies and pretty much line that up with the holes, send that home. I'm going to use the wheel to push it on. I'm going to hold the axle on the other side so I don't break nothing. Push that guy down through. So you can already see there, sitting pretty good with the new tire. And then once we throw the 6-inch lift onto that, it's going to look a lot better. Trucks actually look pretty good. Might actually perform a lot better too. It's a pretty quick little truck, so we'll see what happens. They just came out with a 2-speed transmission and it was STL V8, but it's probably way too much money for the amount of use we put in the truck. So remove the body on this truck here. Is these two 2.5 millimeter screws in the front. Inside the doors, there's 4 more screws, 2 here and 2 here. It's kind of hard to get these ones in, so we only have the back 2 in. I'm going to pull the bed off first. The bed is 2 millimeter driver. You can actually look through. It's these back 2 screws here, and it's the second set of front screws there. You can look down and see which ones go through the bed. Screw container. You want to make sure you support the bed from underneath while you take out this last screw. Make sure you don't drop the bed down on nothing. Scratch it. It's a heavy piece, the bed. The bumper is attached. There we go. One of the main reasons I did buy the truck is I do own an F-150, and with it being set up with the IFS in the front and the solid rear axle in the back and a nice little transfer case, it's kind of a must-have. Nice little scale shocks on it. Yeah, they went all out, did a really nice job. Time for a lift. I did notice that this shackle right here was never actually put together proper at the factory, and it's been kind of throwing everything off with my rear axle being twisted, so I'm going to be able to fix that today while we're in here too. So let's flip that over, get the doors open, and get the last 2 screws out. The body does come off separate than the cab, and you do have to kind of separate it and come up and forward.
Like that.
Bada boom, bada bing. There we go. Chassis open. We got a little scale Playboy magazine in there. Gotta have those. RC4WD drive hat to go with our dude. We have a video game guy in there. Nathan Drake from Uncharted actually fit in there pretty good. Fits the truck actually pretty good. You don't gotta cut his feet, hands, nothing. Fits in there really nice. Actually, can even hold the wheel decently. So yeah, boom. Interior is next to come out. I believe that is 4 more screws on the bottom. The reason we are taking the interior out is we are going to put in the lay flat T-case mount. So it's these 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. And once again, hold on to this when you pull out the last screw or else it will fall on the ground. It is a heavy piece. Factory location of the receiver is mounted directly to the firewall. Eee. Just check your orientation, make sure you got it figured out before you unplug them. Okay, down to the nitty gritty. We're going to do the wheel suspension lift first, then we'll get into doing the T-case. Let's get the rims and tires off right now. Okay, so we got the wheels off. A little bit of a battle to actually pull the threads that are on these hubs through these tires, and you can't get a nut driver through the middle because it's a solid center cap. I ran into a little bit of trouble actually getting the one off, and you don't want to force anything, break anything. Parts of this thing are very, very, very hard to come by. I don't see many on their site. I see upgrades and such, but nothing major for replacement parts. So I took the truck, stood up there, took a lighter, and just went around, kept it about 3 inches away, and just heated with a lighter until it got warm enough where I can kind of work it out and get it off there. So just a little tip there. So I'm going to knock out the transfer case here. I'm going to cheat it and see if I can just slide it around the dry shafts. Perfect. So this will go in that way to the backside. It's a 3D print, so you're going to have to drill out the holes on it, get it to the size that we need it at. The 1.5 hardware, I don't like to use the power screwdriver on. It's got enough power, and if it's a crappy plastic and you lay the power to it, you'll actually pull the threads out with the screw the first time, so it's kind of nice just to pull these out by hand. And that goes for putting them into. It's just too small. We're going to use a 5/64 drill bit. Just drill out the holes in our 3D print. It's always nice having a really good drill bit set that you use just for your RCs. Working with the plastic and aluminum, they'll stay good forever. Just a little bit of cleanup in here. It's such a nice tight fit actually. If there's a little bit of flashing on it, it doesn't fit in. I printed these parts myself and I set my printer to a fast setting just so I can hammer them out. I print my stuff on a high setting and then I usually sand and paint after. There's a little bit of green tape left on here from my my bed. I got one of the original old school printers, bought it about 5 years ago. It still works, so you know, don't fix what ain't broke, right? So you can still buy files like this for cheap and then bang them out pretty quick. So pretty happy with it still. Okay, so normally I would open these up too also and just check on the grease, but there's grease oozing out of the seams on it, so I know it's even grease factory. Still, always something you want to look for on your kits. A lot of companies out there don't grease them just to save a couple bucks. RC4WD is a good company. Their stuff coming through JD Model line. It always comes a healthy amount of grease in it. You want to get these screws up in there, not running them all the way in. Leave them all loose and work your way around. Maybe a little bit of a tight fit this piece because of your ridges and stuff on the inside for the 3D printing. Once all the screws are in, she'll fit just nice. So you're going to want to watch this gap on the way around. All you have to do is put the screws in and run them down until the gap goes away. You don't want to crush it. It's a plastic housing, just painted silver to look metal to fool people. You want to make sure they're all nice and snug, not over tightened. Over tightening is the #1 killer in our hobby. A lot of people over tighten everything. Strip it out, can't get it out, gotta cut it out, or they cause damages to transmission and gears and transmission housings by mashing them, and then they wonder why their kit's no good. That's everything. Test drive, butter. Now we're gonna go around and check the rest of the screws because we didn't put those in. Nice. There's 2 nuts we have to retrieve out of there. Once again, 3D print, we're going to have to just clean up this edge a little bit. Go clean that up, snap that in with a pair of pliers. That nut's not going nowhere. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. Now we got a lay flat transfer case, so she sits nice and low. It doesn't have that one section over here hanging down low to get caught. This section before was hanging low like that, so it get caught. So they went to the low lay flat. Keep this just in case. This is PLA, we can reprint that, but keep this just in case you want to go back, whichever you decide to do. Keep it. Okay, this is going to go back in the same way it came out. You guys don't need to see that. We're going to move on to the lift kit. I can leave this out for now. Let's move on to the lift kit. For the rear end, I'm going to start by just pulling out the shocks, shackles, beauty. There's a rear axle out. We're going to park that guy off to the side. A couple things I'm going to go over to show you guys on that. It's still hooked up on the cable. I don't. Once I pull that cable off that end mount, it ain't going back on there, so we're just going to leave that alone. It's not soldered on the end like it should have been. It's manufacturing. If that's doing the best they can. So. So the stock hardware will be too short, you gotta extend it out to the 20mm hardware. And add your 6.5mm spacer block and reassemble. You're going to want to add a drop of Loctite to these screws. Boom! And then the final step is just changing out these front lift blocks right here. Or the front shackles, sorry. No, perch. This would be a spring perch, sorry, not a shackle. There you go. Run those down, tighten them up, and that gives us our 6.5-inch scale lift, or 6.5 millimeter on a 10 scale. Once again, you don't want to over tighten those and mess up your print. And basically, yeah, the rear end's just reassemble. That one rear shackle thing was popped out. I gotta take that apart, put that back into the leaf, and basically reassemble. Let's move on to the front. Okay, so, to do the front lift on this one, I'm sure I said it 1,000 times, but it's this little block. It sits like a lift would on your regular F-150 between the top of the strut and the shock tower. You need to take out this top ball joint screw, and it has a nut on the bottom. And you need to find a longer one and a small spacer to go between that. Just throw that away. No, I was joking. So that spacer will go right on top of here. The large cutout goes up inside. You're gonna want to take your X-Acto knife and just run that inside edge, open that up so it fits in there nice and snug. Now what I found is doing this is to take out 2 of the small screws that you use that are too short to hold in the mount. Use them just to hold it in place, so you're not trying to line up 10 different things. Okay, well 3, but you know what I mean. I just need to grab a 3mm spacer for that side, and we'll continue. Okay, so this ball and this little cup fit back underneath. You're gonna want to watch your axle on the bottom. Keep that in. Pain in the butt. You just want to pull that till it's nice and closed and not squished and deformed in any way. Okay, and then for your ball joint, you're just going to want to put your longer bolt back in. Make sure it's long enough to clear through there with the addition of a 3mm spacer. You want to make sure your axle is in. Jack all that together. Grab the nut from it, Loctite it, or it will fall off. It helps if you stick your tongue out when you do this. Okay, so boom, done. I'm going to go through after and change out these other 2 ones that are holding in place, the 2 longer ones, and do it all the way around. I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of how to get that in with adding that spacer. That's kind of important. Another guy on Facebook actually showed me a steering mod that he did on this thing, and we're actually be doing that to this thing down the road, because the steering on these things factory is scale, but not really strong. And when we go with a bigger tire and stuff, it's going to run into binding problems and get a break. So we need to upgrade the steering like you would on a full-size off-road. So we're going to do a wheel next. Stay tuned. Okay, we're going to put the Vanquish method 10 somethings, 101s or 5s or something like that. I'm not sure. So anyway, you have to use this 3D printed spacer. You can get that from Spare Time Hobbies, where we got ours. A few other places sell them. We bought the file. Print it ourselves. You want to make sure the hole in the center is big enough that your nut for your wheel drops through. So I've taken the hub apart and taken the bolts, screws and bolts out of it. And just going to put it back together reverse, because you can't get the nut driver to fit with this type of wheel. If you had an OMF Vanquish wheel, you could just use the nuts and bolt these on. You have to reverse the hardware this way. Kind of sucks, but that's it. And again, just like everything else, you don't want to run that screw all the way down tight. You want to get them all in first and then tighten them up. Okay, so yeah, you want to put all your bolts in, get that locked in looking good. You get the scale disc brake rotor in the back now, painted it silver, they come black. And then it has a scale caliper that we're going to have to try to fit on after. Probably not enough room, probably just going to lose the scale caliper. For the back side of these, you're going to want to use the nuts that are on the front side and just lock them down with your 4.5mm nut driver. So, just like that, put your nuts on all the way around the back side, make sure it's all tight and good to go. Put them on the truck and put it back together. Okay, so with the addition of this lay-down transfer case mount bracket in here that brings up the belly of the transfer case and gives you clearance, this part here is now higher up, where the factory one was a lot lower down on that side. Sorry, this way. So to make that work, we're going to need to make a small notch in the bottom of the floor pan of the interior unit. If you're not running the interior, actually you have to run the interior on this truck or you can't put the body on, so you'll be running the interior. You just need to mark out a small section from about there to about here. Go a little bit wider. We're just going to mow this out with the Dr. Dremel. And we need just a little bit more. Yeah, sharp looking unit. Really like the scale realism that they went for with it. Like I said, before the tailgate opens. One thing I want to mention that we've come across when we did the paint job on this thing, there's the hinges for the doors. Don't paint them. They will like change shape for some reason when the paint hits them. And when we did the tailgate, for some reason now when we open it, it has to be twisted hard. It hits the tailgate or the bumper, and it was never near there before. It's like the paint's like swelled the plastic, so we used Tamiya products on it. I don't know what, but something went funny on it. We had to reheat and bend the door hinges quite a bit. Probably open them up about 10 millimeters. Okay, so everything's back in. We did put the remote reservoir shock holders up on the front and the 3D printed fenders. You will, if you don't do the body lift, which we didn't do because we're running the pre-runner bumper, which won't be able to come up with the body lift. If you do that, you're going to have to cut a big hole, or a nice shaped out hole, to fit your gas reservoirs through your front fenders to drop that in. So that's going to take a little work. Remember, when you reinstall the body, keep the doors open so it clears the dash. Bring it back, clear the cab. Make sure that your wires are caught. Oh, she fell off the chest. Jeff, he's dead. And done. Add a couple screws.